Might make sense. We can just jump right into it with the intros. So my name's Adam Badrawi. I'm a partner and head of investor relations and global comms at Framework Ventures, which was one of the largest and earliest venture capital firms in the crypto space. And I think I'm joined here today by Fabian Astic, the global head of digital economy at Moody's, one of the world's largest global credit rating agencies. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself and your history at Moody's as well.
Of course. Thanks, and I'm happy to be with you here today. Thanks for being here, everybody. Sorry, thing is right in my mouth. Fabian Astic, Global Head of Digital Economy for Moody's Ratings. The group that I lead is responsible for pretty much everything that's related to the digitalization of the world, so from blockchain and digital finance to AI to cyber, quantum, and everything that's really reshaping the world as we know it, both from an analytical perspective, so really telling market participants what's going on in the world and how digital technologies can impact them, and also from a business perspective, so working with our technology teams, compliance teams, process teams, legal teams to make sure that we are ready to connect digitally with our stakeholders when they want us to.
So, for our audience, why don't you give us a little bit of context as to your entry into crypto and DeFi? What was the aha moment you had that said, you know what, I need to spend a lot of time in this space?
Right. So it actually started as a pet project. So before my current role, I was the head of quantitative analytics and innovation at the rating agency. And with my innovation hat on, I was already looking at a number of things like data science and AI and blockchain. And we started with a few of my team members that were obsessed with Bitcoin and they really wanted to spend more time looking into it. So I jumped on that train with them and started to learn as well. But fast forward to, I would say, late 2020, early 2021, as we were engaging with financial institutions, mainly talking about innovation topics, we realized that the levels of investment in the digital finance infrastructure, so not necessarily the cryptocurrencies as we knew them back then, but really leveraging the underlying tech stack to repipe financial markets. It was so big that we thought, well, now is the time to go from passive monitoring to active engagement, and we did just that. So we created first the digital finance team that focused on blockchain and applications, and then everything else followed, including the AI trends that we also onboarded, and we beefed up all of that across the rating agency. So it's been a very exciting journey.
So let's do a bit of a deeper dive into Moody's involvement. So can you kind of break down how Moody's is thinking about crypto and DeFi more generally, the specific offerings, and like how for our audience, we often hear that institutions are paying much more attention to the space. How real and significant is the commitment here in terms of Moody's involvement? So.
Well, first I'll start with the way we think about digital finance, the whole space, right? So I love buckets, so we'll break down digital finance into 3 buckets. The first one being what we call digital infrastructure. So it's really finance as you know it, with essentially the same market participants, mainly the same assets and the same cash flows, and to some extent the same processes, but powered potentially better, faster, more efficiently with digital technologies like DLT. And it's in that bucket that I put asset tokenization. So assets that you're familiar with, but that you're turning into digital stamps on blockchain platforms. The second bucket is what I call native digital assets. So it's all the assets out there that only exist because there are blockchains. So in that bucket, I put things like unbacked cryptocurrencies and stablecoins and CBDCs, even though not all of them are powered by blockchain technology. You still get it. DeFi protocols, NFTs, all of that is in that second bucket. And the third bucket is what I call digital exposure. So it's all the existing, more traditional institutions that are more and more exposed to digital risks, whether it's because they're investing directly in digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, or because they're shifting their business model from traditional to digital, and there's a number of exchanges out there, custodians, banks that have done that. And in that bucket, I put as well the contagion risk in both directions, from crypto into traditional finance and from traditional finance into crypto, and sovereign risk, macro risk, and all of that.
So what trends are your team paying the most attention to? And I guess also, along with that, kind of what are your clients most interested in as well?
Out of those three buckets, the first one, the digital infrastructure bucket, I think is the largest growth area in the whole digital finance space. So the key discussions that we're having with financial institutions are on tokenization and payments, so money. It doesn't mean that the other pockets are not interesting. In fact, they're all interconnected. You can't really do digital finance without digital cash, so you need stable coins and tokenized deposits and all of that, so assets in bucket 2. And because digital finance is just a subset of finance, bucket 3 is obviously super connected with the others. But among I would say the main topics is really all that stuff around digital assets, digital securities. We're seeing a lot more of them than before. It's still a tiny space, by the way. We're talking about, since the very first digital bond, for instance, in 2017, there's been maybe like 76, 77 of them. So compared to the overall size of credit markets, it's tiny. I think the total notional amount is under $20 billion, so really, really tiny. But that said, what's noticeable in the acceleration, so out of those, 75 plus bonds that have been issued since 2017, 2/3 of them were issued in the past 18 months, and essentially 1/3 of them in the first 9 months of this year. So you can really see that it's picking up and that things are going quicker.
So let's talk about kind of the convergence of these, the traditional finance world with crypto at large. There's been a lot of excitement around the ETFs. People like to say, oh, the institutions are here. The ETFs have arrived, But it's more than that, right? It's how are these institutions actually using chains? And there's been a debate, how the public and private chain spaces are playing out. Like, how are you folks thinking about that,
right,
more generally in terms of your clients and stuff?
Well, so first, ETFs are a thing, right? Before Bitcoin ETFs were approved in the US, banks were very cautious when it comes to cryptocurrencies and they stayed far away from the whole cryptocurrency space. And suddenly, institutional investors have a way to get in and to be part of that ecosystem. So that's a thing. Now, in terms of excitement and things that we've observed recently, and that to me are really trends that will change the world and financial markets in particular going forward, there's one example, for instance, I know I've shared with you before, that to me really illustrates the whole point. It's a bond that was issued last year by Hitachi in Japan, and they wanted to greenify a facility. What they did is that they issued that green bond on a blockchain platform, and the plan was to use the proceeds to renovate the facility and to make it more energy efficient, which they did. When they did that, they renovated the facility, they installed sensors all over the place, and with that, they measured directly on site the energy consumption of the building real time, and that data is sent directly to smart contracts. The energy consumption levels are turned into CO2 equivalent metrics, and all of that goes straight into the automated reporting, and green bonds are pretty heavy on reporting requirements, so it goes directly and populates all of that, and then all the redemption clauses, all the rules that control the behavior of the bond, if you want, are all also controlled by smart contracts. So if the bond is not performing as expected, then everything will be terminated and repaid automatically through smart contracts. So I think it's super exciting because you really see how all those technologies are finally coming together and repowering much better the financial ecosystem. But I also love all the applications that we see outside of financial markets. So beyond finance, you also have really cool applications of blockchain technology, and that includes, supply chain management, for instance, to make sure that you know where you're sourcing from, who you're interacting with, who your suppliers are. It's very important for luxury brands, for instance, for food cycles. All of that is super exciting. Digital identity is another one that I'm excited about, making sure that leveraging the immutable nature of the data on the blockchain platform, you know that your data is safe and it will only be exchanged with people that are supposed to see your data. I think it's exciting. It's great in the healthcare system, for instance, where you want your data to be with trusted parties and just with them, and a number of other applications. I know you and I talked about IP management before and royalties distribution, where if you start to tag digitally art and songs and whatnot, you always know when they're used and how, and that really facilitate the whole distribution process. So I'm excited about all of that.
Sounds very exciting. So I think to round this out, I think we should talk a little bit about obstacles that remain. And also, let's get a pulse check on how far along are we in terms of adoption. I think you and I, before, when we were sitting for coffee, we had a conversation about that timeline. Love to hear more about what you're thinking there. So,
to tell you the truth, we almost got late because we were excited by this.
We ran.
A couple of things. So there are obstacles to the, I would say, mass adoption of DLT in finance. One of them is actually being solved. It's the lack of interoperability. So people are still telling you, if I'm stuck on my blockchain, but I can exchange assets and information with other blockchains, it defeats the purpose because everything is supposed to be organically global. But that problem is being solved. So you have a number of interoperability solutions, actually, like the Chainlink cross-chain communication protocol. So you are able now to go from a blockchain to another pretty efficiently. We do see really clear frameworks. Problem is that they don't necessarily talk to each other that well. And again, that market is supposed to be global in nature. And if you're stuck in your local market because your framework is not compatible with another one, that's not going to help either. Then there's the lack of digital cash. You hear from investors, well, you're asking me to track everything on the blockchain platform, so I'm going to record, when I did this and that and whom I did it with. But when it comes to the actual payment leg, I'm still using a good old wire payment to do things. So it kind of defeats the purpose. And there are candidates out there, but they're not available really at scale. Tokenized deposits, CBDCs, and others. And then finally, the last one is probably the psychological obstacle, which is the gap between supply and demand. You have a lot of people getting ready to issue digital assets, but on the investment side, people are still feeling that the supply side is pushing for technology solutions that's looking for a problem. So the discussion has to flip, and investors have to hear what's in it for them from an economic and financial perspective to make sure that they see all the benefits of asset tokenization, for instance. And hopefully we've been helping with our research and our ratings, really demystifying the space, removing the buzzwords from crypto and telling people how it works. And to your last point, I know that a lot of you in the room are probably frustrated thinking that it's not going fast enough. And I totally see how when you're a tokenization provider and that's all you do, it might seem a little slow, but when you take a step back and when you look at the ecosystem, everything has been going very fast. And I'll close with the internet analogy that we've discussed before. When you think about the internet in the 1990s, when we all started, if you were born, to use the internet quite a lot, it was not new. Actually, it started in the 1960s, took 30 years to create HTML and to not have to be a computer scientist to use the internet, and you just have to click on a link to go from one website to another. So it became a lot easier. And that's where we are with blockchain and DLT technology. You're just ahead of that fast adoption curve. And so that's why now is the time to get ready for all of us. And again, hopefully we can help you get ready in this new environment.
Well, this has been really insightful, very grounding, but also very optimistic. So, thanks for joining us. It was great. So.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.